Right, it is 9 o'clock. It is Monday. It is time to visit the 13th Fleet's after action report. We're going to go ahead and switch over to our guest cam here where we have Chris Emmick. How you doing today?
Doing well, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I love it that you're willing to come on. Now, some of you may be worrying that it's going to be a really long video if we're going to be talking about gameplay and everything, but I do want to give you a heads up. We are actually going to be skipping through the video, hitting key points of the engagement. If you want to watch the full video, of course, it is on YouTube, and I welcome you to do so and subscribe to the channel. But right now, we're just going to touch on a few of the key points on this, and we're going to start off right now with the opening setup.
Yeah, so uh, in X-Wing, especially in the latest version of the game, which most of us in the community call X-Wing 2.5, with the scenarios in place, what we call turn zero, which is the setup of the game, is really crucial to how well a game can be played by opponents. And just to kind of set up this game, this is the fourth game from our Chaotic Good X-Wing Store Championship. Is featuring Jacob Correll, who is from Louisville, Kentucky. He is flying Imperial, and my son Ethan Emmick, who is flying Resistance. And just a quick note here, you will see there on the sides that we have some lists. The lists are on the wrong sides. So Jacob is actually starting on the right-hand side of the screen, and Ethan is starting on the left. So getting into turn zero here, we didn't really get a chance to see how everything was placed, but we'll try to infer the best that we can. Um, there are um, there are three obstacles that are closer to Ethan's side of the board there on the left-hand side, along with two of the objectives. Uh, Both of those are, this particular scenario is, oh, I'm sorry, this particular scenario is a salvage mission. So each ship after round two may perform a scenario action to pick up one of these supply crates. And after round two, each crate that is under control by a ship, that player scores 1 point for each crate.
Now, I know a lot of the newer players like me tend to think that the focus is really on fighting each other, throwing the ships at each other and doing damage. But I have observed in my early days of playing that the scenarios are a lot more important than I might have thought of at the opening bell there. Uh, would you care to comment on how important these objectives are in this scenario?
Well, it depends on how your list matches up to the other person's list. and how your list is constructed. So if you are running fewer ships than your opponent, um, then in this particular scenario where there's 5 different crates to pick up, you may want to get 1 or 2, but you're going to be focusing on trying to whittle down your opponent's ships and get victory points from killing them. Now, in the scenario play, you only get points for killing a ship when you kill it all the way. You don't get half points by getting it to half health. In this particular, one of the old adages of X-Wing that applies to this particular case is determining which player is the beatdown. In other words, which player, if both players just came at each other headlong, which one would take the worst of the beating? And in this particular case, Ethan's list is the beatdown. He's got some good punch with the 3 X-Wings that he's flying that are on the bottom left corner there. And he's got a Y-Wing there in the middle of the screen that has a total of 9 health. And an A-Wing there also in the middle of the screen, that's Lulo, that is a bit fragile but a bit more agile. But compared to the 3 bombers, the 3 TIE bombers, and the Desi of Jacob's list, Ethan would lose in a straight-up fight. And so in this particular scenario, Ethan's path to victory will revolve around focusing more on crates. And Jacob will need to not let Ethan get a great lead via crate points by also getting 1 or 2 crates of himself, and also trying to knock off the crates that Ethan is carrying on his ships. The rules for salvage missions state that if a ship suffers a critical hit, then the crate is knocked off, and the opponent gets to place where that crate goes within range 1 of the ship that formerly carried it. So in this particular case, we have Jacob has 1 TIE interceptor that is Lieutenant Laurier. That's typically going to be his crate taker, and then run away and score points every round if he can do it. Otherwise, Ethan's just going to have to try to hold on to as many crates as he can, survive a skirmish, and then pick off as many ships as he can.
Okay. Now, based on the placement of the objectives, what do you think each player's strategy is coming in?
So, on Ethan's side, he's got 2 relatively close objectives. He's going to likely try to get to those with the ships that he can. But he's also going to try to go on Jacob's side of the board. On the bottom left side, there is an objective there. And he's going to want to pressure that objective to keep Jacob's TIE interceptor away from it, and maybe force it into the middle to go towards the center objective, or have the Desi pick up the center objective, and then the interceptor try to go get something else. Now, far to the top right, there is another objective that was placed there, likely placed by Ethan to encourage at least 1 ship staying way, way, way far away from the battle. In the setup, you first put a objective on your side of the board, and then your opponent does the same. Then you place an objective on your opponent's side of the board, and your opponent does the same. So likely that top right objective was placed by Ethan so that Jacob's either TIE interceptor or bombers would have to stay that far away from the middle and potentially stave off a a powerful engagement for a turn.
Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention about the setup?
No. I think the only thing that I think should be mentioned here is because Jacob is not the beatdown that he needs to go for kills. His kill priorities has got to be solid. Ethan's Y-Wing has 9 health and only rolls 1 defense die, but it's only worth 3 victory points. So that's going to be a tough nut to crack. Pumping multiple shots into it, trying to get it killed within, trying to get it down as soon as possible. The A-Wing is a little bit tastier of a choice, even though it does have 3 agility, which means it can roll 3 defense dice. It only has a total health of 4, 2 shields, 2 hull. And so 2 good bomber shots could take it off the board pretty quickly, and Lulu is worth about 4 points. Or worth 4 points, not about. It is worth 4 points. So that's going to be the 2 primary targets I think that Jacob's going to focus on. Ethan is just going to try to pick off as many bombers as he can. The bombers have, I think, 6 health, but no shields. So his X-Wings will be rolling 3 or 4 dice into those bombers, and he could potentially blow up a bomber within like 2 attacks, a maximum of 3.
And I guess it's important to note that while 6 health is pretty good amount of health for those bombers, the fact that they don't have shields means that any crits that are scored are going straight through.
Yes, and that's kind of the dance on the edge of the knife that the Imperial players typically deal with. You don't have a whole lot of shielding to prevent crit stuff, but you also pump out a lot more damage than a lot of the other factions do.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into the video just a little bit here once I get to the screen where I can do that. And we are going to kind of fast forward to a point that you noted a little bit earlier here when we conversed. Okay. Why does it not want to continue playing?
Let me see if I can get it started.
Okay.
Is that working for you?
There we go. Yeah.
Cool. So we're picking up the action here during the engagement phase of round 3. Jacob's bombers have picked up a crate and turned in through the middle here in order to start taking off kills. I believe Ethan has already lost his Y-Wing, giving 3 points to Jacob, and then Ethan's X-Wings have set up a trap for the TIE fighter, or excuse me, the TIE interceptor, which kills the TIE interceptor and gives him 3 points. So they should be at about they should be pretty close here. They should be like 12 to 11. What I wanted to focus on here is Jacob's use of his bombers. He had, in the previous turn, he had split off one of his bombers to go chase down the Y-Wing. That's the one that's right in the center of the screen with a focus token. And the Desi also went to chase down the Y-Wing and finish it off. In this round, the other 2 Y-Wings come up straight up the middle, but Jacob does a really good job of doing a sharp turn and keeping Ethan's X-Wing and his A-Wing in arc. And I think we had just missed the point where Ethan's A-Wing just got taken off the board because of those bomber shots. Lulo, in particular, has an ability that A-wing has ability where if the ship is stressed, it can roll one extra attack die, but it rolls one less defense die. And so Ethan decided to get aggressive with the A-wing and then lost it in 2 shots. And so that had, I believe this pushed Jacob up to like a 12 to 11, or excuse me, a 10 to 7 lead. And Ethan has been doing his best job to take crates, but Jacob has been really good at knocking crates off. At this stage of the game, I think Jacob had knocked off 3 crates. So Ethan's X-Wings move into a position, one of them pick up a crate, and then it will get shot and lose the crate.
And that would happen
whenever will lose the crate.
And that would happen whenever a crit was scored, whether or not it actually got through shields, as long as the crit was rolled, right?
Yes. If the crit is not negated by like the defense dice or an evade result, then it counts as knocking off the crate. So we're watching them wrap up right now the end of round 4, and Ethan's got his 2 TIE fighters to the right there. One of them is still holding on to a crate, and the fact that he's still maintaining a crate lead here is important because it's still giving him points on the board and still putting that pressure onto Jacob. So at the end of this round, the score is Jacob 10 and Ethan 7, but Jacob does not control any crates, and Ethan controls 1.
Okay. Let's see. We're not very far. Actually, I think we skipped into another segment of your.
Yep. Yeah, I think we went too far, but that's okay.
I apologize for that.
No problem. I'm going to skip to the next section. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the activation phase of round 5. And here in just a minute, we're going to see a very interesting move from Ethan's X-Wing. Jacob has done a 1 straight with his decimator, and decides to pick up the crate so that he can at least start getting some crate points with it. And then Ethan's X-Wing here does a kind of a basic maneuver in order to pick up a crate so that Ethan can continue having the pressure on. And then in the middle of the screen there is one of Ethan's X-Wings that are right next to the big bump bombers there. And Ethan is now doing a 3 Talon roll with it. Now this particular ship is Elo Asti, and his pilot ability allows him to do 3 Talon rolls that are normally red and would force to have a stress to be white instead. So Ethan is able to turn the ship around and do an action. Now, the crucial thing here is the action. Ethan definitely feels pressure being behind to pick up a crate. However, Ethan has also done this 3 Talon roll through an obstacle and has taken 2 damage from that obstacle, leaving Elo Asti at just 4 hull. No shields, just 4 hull. And he needs to protect Elo Asti's points from the bombers getting a kill in a couple of turns. So at this stage, he is weighing whether or not he wants to take the crate and potentially have 1 point at the end of the turn if it's not shot off, or if he's going to take a focus token and try to help Elo Asti survive to the next round and the round after. There Ethan makes his decision. That was perfect timing. He made the focus. He made the choice to make a focus token here. So now they're measuring range from the Deci to Elo Asti. The Decimator has Darth Vader crew, which at the start of the start of the engagement phase, um, if you are within range 2 of a ship with Darth Vader crew, the, the player with Darth Vader can spend a force to have you either remove a green token or take a damage. So it's just an automatic damage. And so Elo being just out of range 2 there prevented him from losing the focus. And in the attack here, Elo takes 2 damage. So he's at 2 health. But that leaves him with 2 health that lets him survive until the next round and rounds after. And just to make sure I put enough of a point on this, this is such a fine decision. Ethan, because the game is so close, it would have been really easy to think that grabbing that extra crate would have mattered. However, it could have been knocked off, and then the ship had blown up, and then Ethan had given up 4 points for Elo Asti instead of gaining 1. And it's these kind of difficult decisions that actually make scenario play kind of pop for us, where you're not 100% sure what you need to do. You know what your opponent wants to do, and you've got to make as best of the right choice that you can.
Yeah, I understand that completely. In the same round in this tournament, I was playing a Desi build as well, along with Vader in the TIE Advance and two bombers. And unfortunately, I just could not figure out how to prioritize the crates there, so it didn't end well for me.
And that was probably one of the first times that you had played crates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, getting that feel for it. What does my list do, and how much action economy do I need to spend on crates, and how much of my targeting priority should be going to knocking off crates. Those are things that just kind of comes with experience, and so you'll get a lot better with that, Chris.
Yeah. All right, so then there was another segment here that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, so just to sum up what we're looking at here, there was no kills. Ethan was able to control 2 crates, and Jacob got the 1 with his Desi. So currently, Ethan is up 12-11.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, there was nobody actually able to man the computer during this, so the points and the status on the ships did not change. I do like to play, so I don't know how often I'm going to sit behind the computer and change those, but hopefully we'll get that sorted and figure it all out at some point.
Okay, so now we've skipped ahead to round 7. This is right before I called time on the tournament, and the current score is Ethan has 14 points and Jacob has 12. Jacob hasn't been able to secure a kill on that Elo Asti X-Wing. He was able to survive to 1 health on this turn, and but he's not going to last much longer. He is right next to the Desi there. The Desi may blow him up, or Jacob has turned around one of his bombers, and the bomber can blow him up. In fact, the conversation that they're having right now is going to determine the outcome of the game, because Jacob has a very important decision to make. He's down 2 points. He's going to gain 4 points from Elo Asti by killing him. Elo Asti's done for. Ethan knows this. Ethan has 2 crates on his 2 other X-Wings, his other 2 surviving X-Wings. Jacob has the crate on the Desi. So Ethan desperately has to knock the crate off of the Desi. And because Elo Asti has survived until this round, he is able to contribute to to an attack modifier that's about to be done by one of the other X-Wings here, where because Eloasti has the Desi in Bullseye, the other ship gets to do an attack reroll. So Elo surviving to this round matters. Not only for that, but also now Ethan has 3 chances to put a crit onto the Desi and knock off that that crate. Because if it ended right now, with everybody being the same way, and with Elo Asti dead, Jacob would win 15 to 14, I believe. And so at this stage, Ethan's figuring that out and is knocking. Is now we're checking for Bullseye, so Ethan's making the attack on the Desi. He's able to push a crit through, and so that knocks it off. Now Jacob has a really tough decision. Jacob needs to push one of Ethan's crates off. He's going to have 2 attacks to do it. One of the attacks has to kill Eloasti. The other attack has to knock one of the crates off of the other ships. His TIE bomber, which is Tomac's, Major Reimer, can do a 3-die attack into either tie. But the ability to modify that attack with saturation salvo is no longer available, because Jacob has spent most of the charges for his bombardment missiles, and so he can't use the charge for saturation salvo.
I love saturation salvo.
Decimator's pilot ability is that's Rear Admiral Cherno. While he attacks out of an arc that he is reinforcing, he can change an eyeball into a crit. And so Ethan and Jacob are now having this discussion about which ship should shoot what. And to be clear, this is just exceptional sportsmanship for both Ethan and Jacob to be able to have this conversation about what is the best outcome for Jacob. In high-level X-Wing play, usually you're supposed to kind of keep your mouth shut and figure things out on your own. But Ethan and Jacob know each other pretty well, and they want the best outcome for this game, so they're talking through it. Ethan has suggested by this point that the Decimator should shoot into one of the X-Wings that's carrying a crate, because it would be easier to get the crit from Rear Admiral Cherno's pilot ability than the bomber. And Jacob mulls it over and decides that guaranteeing Eloasti to die from the Desi at range 1, a 4-die attack, which is that, was more important. So Jacob picks up 4 points here, and then here in just a moment, he's going to roll his bomber attack to try to force a crit, and he doesn't roll a crit. So since he lost his crate, gained 4 points for the X-Wing kill, he gains 4 points. Ethan holds on to his 2 crates, and he scores 2 points, and they tie at 13 points apiece.
That's an incredible result. That doesn't happen very often, does it? Ties.
Well, it happens. It happens a little bit more than you think. I've run a couple of tournaments this year, most of them 16 or more players, and in some of our scenarios, they're especially ones that are well flown like this. Players will end up evening out because they're doing the math and they're making educated guesses about what the right call is, and when they are successful for that, they can get enough to tie it, but they don't necessarily have enough to win it completely.
Okay. And I do want to point out, guys, unfortunately, I'm having some difficulty with my camera here in in Discord, so you're getting the frog image there with his head in shame because I can't get it going. But we are going to continue to talk about some other things here. That was a very entertaining match, and I do highly recommend that you go to YouTube and check it out. It was a great final to a completely great event. But now, let me
And just
see.
to be clear, I am doing my best Lobot impression from Empire Strike Back with my headphones.
Let's see here. Now, can I get this going?
And just to kind of wrap up the tournament, since both Ethan and Jacob tied, they both ended the tournament with 3 wins and 0 losses, 1 tie. In X-Wing Swiss pairings, a strength of schedule is calculated for all the players, and because Ethan had the better strength of schedule, he ended up winning the tournament. But kudos to both players. I'm obviously proud of Ethan and how he played, but Jacob really played his list very well all day long, and he was a deserving champion as well.
Okay, so let me see what I can do here about getting this going again. Okay. That didn't work quite the way I wanted it to. Excuse my technical difficulties here. There we go. Okay, so I guess I do need to preface this by stating that what I had asked Chris as a favor, being that I'm still a new player and I am playing Empire because I've got a lot of Empire pieces right now. I don't have any of the other factions. What I've got going on right now is I decided I wanted to get a build that could do a lot of repositioning with the Empire, because I had been noticing on some of the videos that I'd watch from, say, Gold Squadron, and seeing how important that, okay, yeah, it's great to select the right move when you're picking dials, but on the other hand, being able to adjust for that is also a really, really amazing thing. And he was kind enough to reach out to a few different builders and came up with 3 different builds that we might want to look at, and they all have a little bit of a different focus, if I understand correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. So your kind of qualifications was basically, how can I play with repositioning and double repositioning? In X-Wing, when you after you perform a maneuver, you can perform an action. You can do a barrel. Some ships can do a barrel roll, which moves them side to side. Some ships can do a boost that moves them forward at a 1 straight or 1 bank. And some ships can do both. Some ships are allowed to take whatever action and then can then do a red boost or a red barrel roll. So you get to do a double reposition at the price of your ship being stressed out, and then you have to deal with that for the next turn. So we were discussing, what could be good here for Chris to kind of learn with, and I opted for 2 different approaches to the build. I had made I think that's the I-5.
This is the Aces build, I believe. I may be incorrect here.
Lesser Aces build. All of the ships here are Initiative 5, so the only other ships that would move before them and shoot before them would be Initiative 6. And so I loaded this up with ships that have afterburners or the ability to do a double reposition themselves. Starting at the top, we're looking at Mauler Miffle and Backstabber. They are both flying the regular TIE line fighters. These are the little these are the traditional ties that everybody knows and loves and go boom when you look at them. But these guys have an extra hole of health. These guys are from the Battle of Yavin scenario pack. So they come preloaded with several um, upgrades, and both of them come with afterburners. Afterburners is an upgrade where if you do a speed 4, or 5 maneuver, so if you go fast, you can spend one of your afterburner charges to do a boost. And it doesn't matter if you're stressed, you can still perform the boost while stressed. So you can do something like a 4K and then boost one straight to get closer to the ship that you just overlapped. Mauler and Backstabber are also kind of like a partners. They want to be at range 1 of each other, and that's something that you can kind of more easily do with some double repositioning. So you may have them flying a little bit further apart, and then once you want them to come in and put some damage on a ship, then you may have one of them barrel roll closer to where the other one is. When they are within range 0 to 1 and in each other's side arcs, they get to roll 1 additional attack die. So they go from a 2 dice gun to a 3 dice gun, and that makes them be able to hit really good. So
the other thing that I noticed
you definitely don't want to take these 2 ships and fly them up the middle because they are still pretty flimsy. But there's some repositioning shenanigans that you can do from the side of the board where you can get them in the range one of one another and start pumping out damage.
And I also noticed that if necessary, they also have the barrel roll in there.
Yes. And then if you roll over a Juno there and bring up her ability, Juno is in the TIE Advanced X1. That's the ship that Vader flies during the trench run. And her pilot ability says that after you perform an action, you may perform a red boost action. So this is a bit different from Afterburners in the sense that it happens after you perform an action. And I put passive sensors on her, if you'll roll over that one.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
There you go. Passive sensors says that you spend a charge that recharges every round. While you cannot be coordinated while this charge is down, but when you engage, if your charge is inactive, you can perform a calculate or target lock action. So the idea here is at initiative 5, you'll fly in, you'll do the passive sensors, and wait and see where the other I5s and I6s go. Then, when it comes to Juno's turn to activate, you trigger the calculate or the target lock, hopefully the target lock, and then do the red boost in order to get in closer for kill. So the X1s really want you to be target locked on things that you shoot. They are normally 2 dice guns, but if you have a target lock on them, they give you an extra attack die, and then you are allowed to change a hit into a crit. So that's a really cool interaction with Juno. The next ship that we have on the list there is Volt Scaris in the Interceptor. This is just a really cheap I5 Interceptor. His pilot ability is not great. There's really not going to be very many cases where you're going to want to take a strain in order to take an action when he engages. But it's there just in case. I've loaded him up with Juke and targeting computer so that way he can do target locks if he's being ignored. And Juke allows you to change a defensive die from an evade into an eyeball as long as you have an evade token when you're attacking. So um, Volt will can double reposition because he has afterburners, or excuse me, is that, yeah, auto thruster, excuse me. So he can do a barrel roll as his normal action, and then do a red boost as the auto thrusters action. Um, so he can double position all over the place. Um, at I-5, 3 hull, 3 agility. He's not the greatest in the world, but he adds an extra set of 3 dice that you can throw at something. And the last one here is actually from the Empire starter kit that just came out. It's Merrick Steel in the standardized loadout card. He's worth 5 squad points overall, but he gets a lot of cool things on there. He has elusive, so you can reroll when your defense dice to potentially save the ship. He has outmaneuver, which lets you the defender rolls 1 less die when he's behind them, and afterburners as well, so he can do some double repositioning stuff.
Okay. One thing that I've noticed just based on this build is that there are a lot of these standardized loadout cards that just, and I also, based on some of the conversations I've picked up, online, like Luke being so good and Vader being so good, it just seems like a lot of these standardized loadouts where you would think that traditional logic in a game says that you want to be able to customize your guy as much as possible, but these builds are really good.
Yes.
I'm just kind of, is this something that happened when Atomic Mass took over, or is this something that was more already a part of the game?
I believe that the standard loadout cards is one of the things that Atomic Mass has added to X-Wing, and like you said, some of these builds are really good, and because the upgrades are static on those cards, they can be just tweaked by squad points. So if a ship is having too much impact in the meta for being too good and having all these great upgrades, you just recost it at an extra squad point, and then it's not as effective. But it's also very strong when you're playing casually. You can give newer players, Luke from Battle of Yavin, which is an incredibly strong character and ship, and they can do some real work with them. So for this one, I went a little bit different direction because there are one of the standard ways to set up kills and be effective in X-Wing is to kind of set up a hammer and anvil strategy. So you would have like a bigger ship like your Desi normally, running up the middle, and whichever ships kind of come in on it, your flankers would come in from the side, and everything would hit all at once, right at the point of the anvil.
Let me interrupt you for just a moment, because we are having a little bit of technical difficulties here, and so I am going to try to resolve that. While on our screen, it looks like it's running great. On the stream, it is not going so great. So, let's see. Did that fix it? Of course not. Okay, So I am gonna keep you in voice here. what we've got going on. I've got you back on Discord now, so you are back
Cool.
on camera. Well,
Hi.
go ahead.
I said hi. Look at my blurry
Hi.
hands.
I want to.
Did you wanna bring up Gordon's list? That one was really
I didn't have that list. I only have the 3 lists that were on the document that I downloaded. So maybe I missed something. May cover it next week.
Yeah, I was about to say I could just go over it real quick.
Sure.
So he had given you a list that was giving you different kinds of repositioning, kind of how, like I was talking about with Lieutenant Laurier and that interceptor at I-3. You're going to want to reposition for bumps with that one. So he gave you Darth Vader, which is the standardized Darth Vader from the starter kit that comes with hate, ion missiles, and afterburners. He gave you Suntrafel, which is similar to the build that I have, except he gave Suntrafel shield upgrade, which gives Suntra 1 extra health, and then marksmanship and ruthless as the other 2 talents. And then he gave you a TIE Striker. This is one of the ships that was featured in Rogue One, and it is a very interesting platform because if that ship is not stressed before you reveal its dial, you must do a boost. So you will have to do the boost no matter what, unless the ship is stressed. And so he selected Countdown as the pilot. Countdown's ability lets you gain a stress token to only take 1 damage from an attack.
Okay.
So he can still be melted down, but that first attack you're only going to take 1 damage off.
All right. Yeah, that sounds like a little bit of a points fortress.
Mm-hmm. And then Countdown also has shield upgrade, disciplined, and ruthless. So Countdown is an initiative 4, and at I-4 you kind of have to play the middle between the 2. You want to ambush things that are slower initiative, but you also want to stay away from everything that's high initiative. So that's a really interesting way to play a kind of medium ace like that.
Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time to talk to me today, and I'm sure I'm going to ask you back later. As we get things rolling, definitely having insight like yours is going to help out a lot, and especially with new players, which I qualify, I think.
Well, Chris, all of us here in Lexington have just been thrilled that you've decided to kind of join us and start learning X-Wing. We know how much you've enjoyed Armada in the past, and so the fact that you wanted to spend some of your time with us, and even wanting to cover our events and stuff, we're just tickled pink to have you. And I promise next time I will actually let you get a word in edgewise.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, and we are going to try to stream tomorrow. I cannot promise that because I haven't tested the rig to do it, but with any luck, we will have the stream up on Twitch, and then we will always post the recordings on YouTube after the event. So I've been pretty good about getting those up the same day that we do them. So if you're looking for X-Wing action, then I am going to give it to you. And we're also going to give you some Armada action, but I'm going to let you go before I talk about Armada some.
All right. Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you have a good one.
You too, Chris.
Okay, let's get back into All right. Not sure what happened there, but we've got the audio fixed now again, hopefully. Anyway, after having Chris on here, we wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about Armada. I don't have a lot to talk about this week outside of we did get the recording down. There were some technical difficulties in there. There were some bumps on the camera gear, which is to be expected. But we do try to do our best to get those incidents minimized. Again, with the new rig, I will probably be able to give both a stream as well as a dice cam for what's going on in the action, because I do recognize that those cameras do not always necessarily pick up what it is that you are after as far as seeing what's going on in the action. I will say strategy as far as Armada is concerned this week. I am hoping that next week I'll be able to get a guest on to talk a little Armada. Thursday I'll talk to the crew that we play with and see if we can get somebody in on the stream and see how that goes. I have gone a little bit longer than what I intended to today. And I apologize to all you Armada fans that did not get to see much in the way of Armada content. Hopefully, again, I will have more of that next week, probably a little less X-Wing next week. So, thank you for joining me, and I hope you will have a wonderful week. We will be back next week at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, or 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Yeah, I can get my timetable straight. You guys have a good day.